Ben worked for a hospital as a porter for 23 years. This was a job he loved. He also had outside interests, as a lot of us do. Ben's particular interest is in the paranormal and government cover-ups. In other words, he has an inquiring mind and asks questions. He researches these subjects and was interviewed by the press about them. And shortly after, something very strange and disturbing happened. He was promptly sacked, without doing anything wrong at work whatsoever. This action has repercussions far beyond Ben himself and sets a somewhat Orwellian precedent. Let's find out a little bit more. Please welcome Ben Emlyn-Jones. Thank you.
Thank you. Hospital porters, pride and dignity. Stop the New World Order. Yeah, not bad. Not bad. Actually, is there anyone here who's a hospital porter? Anyone? No? Has anyone in this room ever been a hospital porter before? Anyone? Oh, one gentleman there, pride and dignity, brother porter. Phew, I'm at the right meeting, that's good. I thought I might have taken a wrong turn and ended up at that New Horizons place or something. You know. Right, I tell you what, it's really nice to be back here in St Anne's. I recognise a few of you already from the Probe conference. I mean, I'm sure you've heard of it. It's just, literally just across the road, and I really, I love that conference. I've been going there since 2006. I haven't been there recently because of the problems I'm going to talk about this evening. But you know, it's my financial situation that's keeping me away. I have to make some very tough decisions about what I do with my limited resources now, but I'm hoping that won't last forever. I mean, I am working, as I've been saying to some of you before I came on stage, I'm a lot better off than some people who've been in the same situation as me. So, with any luck, I will see you at Probe again sometime. I really do. Right, now the Probe conference is kind of where, it was my first conference where I sort of like started getting involved in this. And it was soon after going there that I sort of became what I am today in terms of my ideas. It helped clarify a lot of my ideas, meeting those people, gaining that information, and getting sort of involved in on a sort of activist level of what I was doing, not just sort of like talking about it and thinking about it, but actually doing something about it. And so my name is Ben Emlyn-Jones, as Rob just told you. I run a website which is called HPANWO, H-P-A-N-W-O, Hospital Porters Against the New World Order. Now, people have often asked me, why do I call it that? Why do I call it Hospital Porters Against the New World Order? And the answer is, well, there's a guy in America called Jack McLam who has an organisation called Police Against the New World Order. So I thought, if police can have an organisation against the New World Order, why not hospital porters? That's so simple as that, really. HPANWO is, like I say, it's a blog where I write a lot of articles about various subjects. If you go there, there's a lot of reading material there. I've also got something called HPANWO TV, which is a YouTube channel. There's Ben's bookcase, where I write fictional material, because I'm a fictional author as well as a hospital porter. I've written several books. This was before I got into trouble. I was writing books, and I'm still trying to write stuff now. There's also, I'm also a radio show host, and I have something called HPANWO Radio originally, which is decided to stick with the format, keep the franchise going, and that's part of the Critical Mass Radio Network, which so I'm sure some of you might have listened to some of the shows on there, and it's worth listening to, definitely. Not just my show, but the others as well. Now you'll notice when I asked anyone here if you've ever been a hospital porter, and the gentleman there put his hand up, I also raised my hand. And that's because I was a hospital porter. I was a hospital porter for, is it 22, 23 years? I've lost count, actually. I'm not sure exactly how long it was. Very long time, that's for sure. Over 23, about 23 years. But I'm not anymore. I will explain that. I'll explain exactly what happened to me in chronological order, and I will try to explain it as well as I can. I will try not to lapse into too much hospital terminology. If I say something you really don't understand, just shout out and say, Ben, what are you talking about? You know, because I do try to avoid that, and I try to explain it in language you'll understand. But the hospital is hospitals are kind of closed societies. They have their own ways of doing things, their own words, and their own sort of ways of describing things. And I've got to get used to the normal language now, I suppose. Now, I became a hospital porter at a time in my life when just a couple of years after I left school. I was feeling very destitute. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, and I ended up, quite by accident, in hospital portering because I worked in an office doing lots of menial jobs such as photocopying and filing, and I did that for a few months. It was my first proper job, really, and I really didn't like it. I really hated it, but luckily this office was next to a hospital and it was part of the health authority, so I got to meet some of the porters, and when I met those porters and I saw what they were doing, I thought, I want to be a part of that. So I applied. I became a hospital porter. I started off doing relief, which is basically where you cover, they put all new porters on a relief tour, and relief is basically where you cover other people who are away, who are off, who are away on sick, or they're away on annual leave, or away for some other reason, and you basically fill in for them. Now, this meant I was moved all over the place, and my hours were very irregular, but it gave me a lot of experience. It got me looking at lots of different parts of the hospital, learning a lot about it. I then went and worked in maternity for 9 years, I was a delivery suite porter, so I worked in the place where they did cesarean sections when where the babies are born, and that was pleasant. People think that's always going to be pleasant, but it's not. It can be very upsetting because babies being born. It's not always a happy ending when babies are born. Some of them don't make it, and it's very upsetting when that happens. Then I moved over into the general operating theatres, and I was a theatre porter for 6 years. Then I worked in A&E, in casualty, and I was really, people kept saying to me they thought I was like Jimmy, and Jimmy is a character from the TV series Casualty, played by Robson Green, quite a number of years ago now, but it's the only major character I think who's been a porter in that series, but I don't watch it much because I can't stand it. But I really hated that character, actually, because Jimmy, he just walked around like this with his shoulders slumped and his head drooped, and oh, I wish I wasn't only a porter, I wish I wasn't only a porter, I wish I was a nurse, oh, I'm only a porter, no one likes me. And I thought, I really hate it when porters are portrayed like that, because to be a hospital porter is actually to be an essential member of a life-saving team, and it's something we should be proud of. But that's not how it was portrayed, unfortunately, and I was very annoyed by that. I wrote a real disgusted Tunbridge Wells letter to Points of View, which I never got a reply about. Basically, there's no room for false modesty in this discussion. I was one of their most valuable staff. I was one of the most experienced. I was one of the most highly trained. I was one of the most dedicated. I was one of the most, expert, and I was a trainer. So part of my duties was to train new members of staff, to pass on the knowledge and the skills of the job to the future generations of hospital porters. And I was qualified as a trainer. I was a back care facilitator, which is where you teach people how to do your job properly without hurting your back, without getting back injuries, because that's a very common problem and can be devastating for people in the health service to get that problem. I was basically extremely difficult to replace. In terms of portering, I was definitely the most difficult porter to replace there. The one downside of hospital portering is the pay is low. It always has been, it still is. In fact, it's pound for pound, penny for penny, it's lower than it was when I started. I'm now today, so I pity the new porters today, I really do. Some of them don't even get proper contracts and they have to work through agencies, which is really is a real drudgery, it really is. But I know people who are earning 10 times what I was earning as a porter, and they're miserable as sin. They hate their job, they're stressed, they're bored. When I was a porter, I was a lot of things when I was a porter. I was sad, happy, annoyed, upset. I was never once, not in 23 years, bored. Not one single day was I bored. Portering is fun, it's exciting, there's a lot of drama, there's a lot of enjoyment, well, at least there was, certainly in the early days, there was a lot of sort of like banter and camaraderie, and there was a lot of community spirit. Looking after people is something I enjoy. Taking care of people when they're at their lowest, when they come into hospital, the patients, that's something I got a great deal of satisfaction from. I really enjoyed that interaction with those people, and I felt very happy when, what I was doing for them helped them. I would go back and do it all again if I had the choice. If I found myself back then, all those years ago, I'd do exactly the same thing. No regrets at all. Like I said, for 23 years, everything went fine. Excuse me. Absolutely okay, without a hitch. As I said, I had an exemplary record. And then one day, on Tuesday, October the 18th, 2011, I turned up for work at 10 p.m. for what I thought would be a routine night shift. And senior porter met me outside the changing rooms and escorted me to the head porter's office. The head porter had come in specially. And she said, "Ben, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to suspend you from duty. Please hand over your ID card and all your equipment." The shock, it's the shock I felt, it's hard to describe. The surprise, the disbelief of what I was hearing. And I said, "What's all this about? What is going on? What?" And she said, "This is internet related, but I can't give you any details." I thought, "What, internet related?" And I was escorted off the site. I went home and I think I picked up the phone to my girlfriend in Nottingham, and I think I cried down the phone to her for about an hour. I didn't sleep for about 3 days. I phoned my shop steward the next morning and I said, "Look, Abdul, I was suspended last night." And he says, "Oh dear, what for?" And I said, "I don't know." And he says, "What do you mean you don't know?" I said, "I don't know why they suspended me." He says, "Never heard of this before, Ben." I didn't. I stayed awake. I think I sat up biting my nails for about 3 days and nights. And then I got, internet related, this is what they told me. Now I thought, well, the last time I heard a porter or any member of staff, wasn't a porter, someone got into trouble for playing internet poker on the hospital computers, which you're not allowed to do. But all they got was a slap on the wrist, and they were told not to do it again. That's the only thing I could think of that they were accusing me of, something related to that, using the hospital computers for inappropriate stuff, like internet poker or pornography or something. But I wasn't doing that, but I thought that's what they think I've done. In which case, though, I wouldn't have been suspended. It's not that serious. It's not serious enough to suspend someone. Anyway, a week later, I was called into an investigation meeting, still in the dark about what this was about. I was told that I was accused of inappropriate, offensive, and unprofessional behaviour in my outside work, which questioned my ability to perform my duties without prejudice and might bring the Oxford Radcliffe Hospitals Trust into disrepute. All right, this is a big statement to make, very far-reaching statement. They're telling me that what I do when I'm off duty has a direct impact on the hospital's ability to perform its job, to function. What I was doing in my private life had a direct impact on the ability of the hospital to function. Now, I had been given a copy of the disciplinary handbook of the NHS, and I flicked through. I'd already read it cover to cover over the last 3 days when I was lying awake at night. And there is a chapter there on conduct outside work. Right? But it only covers one category, that's criminal activity. A good example I can give you, which actually did happen about a year before I got into trouble. If a member of staff was accused of abusing a child, that member of staff would be suspended from duty for the protection of the patients there, you know, which I suppose is fair enough. I hadn't been accused of any criminal activity, a policeman never called. So it wasn't that. So this is a pretty unprecedented situation. Anyway, they actually said they had received a complaint that some of the things I was doing on the panel were these things, inoffensive, they were inoffensive, I think. Freudian slip there. They were inappropriate, offensive and unprofessional. Now, there was a list of a few items on this list of this email that was sent, this anonymous email that was sent to the trust. One of those was a video I made called Microchip a Muslim Day. Now that does sound a bit dodgy, doesn't it? But, you know, it does sound a bit dodgy, but what it was, right, I made it in September of 2010. The year before that, there's a man in America, pastor somebody, I haven't looked up his name, he said he proposed that every September the 11th should be Burn a Quran Day. Because, as you all know, 19 hijackers did 9/11. A dying man in a cave in Afghanistan with a laptop and a mobile phone directed it all. Yeah. They overcame the best defended airspace in the world. And they crashed two planes into two towers, which then dissolved into dust. So that's basically why this pastor was doing it. Anyway, I thought that in order to break through all that crap, I thought the best way to diffuse that kind of nonsense is to make a joke about it. So I decided to satirise it. And I used my comedy character, or I call But You Do Nothing. He wears pink sunglasses and he smokes a fake cigarette. Yes, this was the video I made was basically this guy proposing that it should be Microchip a Muslim Day, because I thought, well, if you're going to blame Muslims or any group of people for our problems, which is what the government seem to want us to do, why not put microchips in them, to control their behaviour or to monitor them, or to control their financial activities? It's just one group of people, it's not everyone else. They'll have, but the problem was, what I wanted to say was, in this video, and I put it across in this video in terms of the joke, was that if we start doing that, if we start pointing fingers at people and letting the government do what they like with these people, and we support them, we cheer them on to imposing these sort of regulations on this particular group of people as a problem reaction solution, as David Icke calls it, then they're going to add more groups, they'll add more people to that group. They'll say, well, how about prisoners when they come out of jail? We can keep an eye on them. Let's put microchips in them. How about the homeless? Then we can check every time they get a meal, which is actually being done in America. We can keep an eye on these homeless people, make sure they're all right, And they'll add more and more people to that group of people who are microchipped. And every single group that's added to the microchip pool will be added with the full support of everyone not in it. And it's only a matter of time before so many different groups are in that pool that they will outnumber the rest of us. And then the government will throw up their hands in mock frustration and they'll say, oh, well, we might as well just do everyone. And that is what I think they're planning on doing. And that is the reason I made that video. It wasn't to have a go at Muslims, it was the exact opposite. It was to try and expose this propaganda that makes people blame them because of the dangers it faces for all of us. And that video was very popular, actually. A number of Muslim people actually understood my satire. The video was not flagged in all the time it was up, and it was up for over a year before this complaint was made. And that's an important point. I'll come back to that in a minute. I made several other videos. There was one where I did something called St. Theo's Day, which was in the Hospital Social Club. And it was for the porters. It was St. Theobald of Ruggiero was the porters, patron saint of hospital porters, and I decided to have a party on his feast day, which is June the 1st. And they complained about that because it was filmed in the social club without permission.